can open the meeting. So we have minutes from our last meeting. Only two of us, oh, three of us were there. Have you read them before? Yeah. Any problems with any of them? How about you, Henrietta? Okay. So can I have a motion to
make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody. Okay. All right, so old business, Baldwin Hill property, Mr. Fairburn. Where are we with that?
Would you like an update?
Yeah.
Okay, I actually have the latest plans that we've had to put together for the Inland Wetlands Commission. I don't know if anybody wants to stand and take a look, but we applied for our wetlands permit, and we had walked through. They had some additional things they wanted to put on the map, so we've done that, and then they come back with some additional things. So we're you know in the process of doing those.
On and on.
I met with Jimmy and Kevin Smith on the driveway, and we've got to do like a 12 or 15-inch culvert to go into the driveway, you know, so when the water's coming down from Baldwin Hill, it'll continue to go through. And then in terms of the financing, so I think I had mentioned, but I'll read.
Yeah, do it again.
So this one off for the housing, the Department of Housing, it's too much paperwork for one house. So we've combined with Cornwall, Salisbury, and Norfolk to do 9 houses.
Right.
And so they put together an RFP, which was finalized last Friday. And that's going to go out to contractors, to bid on building all 9 houses. And so there's going to be a site visit with any interested contractors here on May 29th. And then in terms of the financing, what the state has done, because again, they don't want to handle this. So they are giving a grant to a group called the Capital for Change, which is a nonprofit that, does one of the grants on these. So we're right in the process now of putting in a grant to these folks. Is called Path 3. That's the designation of it, to get a couple $100,000. So probably we won't hear on that till August.
So
maybe.
that's not going to cover the cost of the
No, so
building,
the house will sell for probably $250,000. And if we can get 200,000 from there, that's 450.
Yeah.
And that's the house, the 2 new houses we built at Vincent Farm were around $356, soup to nuts. And the land, of course, was part of the purchase of the house. So, depending on what some of the site conditions are and that, it might be a little bit more, but you have very generously given us over $12,000 right now. So what we've, so that part of it is where we are. So
as far as funding goes, you're okay so far?
Yeah. I mean, we've got, the engineer and Mike Alex have had to do some additional things to meet the wetlands request. So we'll get a bill for that, but it shouldn't be that much money.
Okay, and so that you'll give that to me, and
and then I'll fill you in on the other thing I'm going to bring to you too on the Wickham property.
Right.
Okay. Any questions on that I can answer?
The 9 houses are between all of the communities that are part of the deal, right?
Yeah, so we're doing a joint application to the Capital for Change for this money. I think the state gave them like $2 million. I think, I don't hold me to that, but I think somewhere around there possibly. So I think our request is right around 200,000.
That's for our portion.
Yeah, for our portion, yeah.
Bill, how does it break down the houses in the towns?
Cornwall has 3, Salisbury has 4, Norfolk has 1.
Right.
And then there's a Habitat. That's a Habitat house that's also included, another one.
Yes.
So each community will negotiate separately it'll do a contract with their own construction, local construction, I mean, or it's
Well,
will be a single.
you know, essentially the contractors come in with the bid for all 9
For all 9,
houses.
okay.
Yeah,
including maybe possibly modular, correct?
yeah,
I
the
mean, that's not-
RFP asked them to bid based on modular or stick built. So they'll come in, you know, I'm not sure, you know, whether they'll, you know, I mean, it's basically the RFP kind of follows the modular plan we had for this originally to do on our own, so it's very similar, the same model house. You know,
Yeah.
so, but we'll see what happens.
Excuse me if my questions are
No,
better,
no.
but the design elements, have those all already been approved by zoning here?
No,
Okay,
not that, I mean, once we get the wetlands permit, you know, again, you know, we've got the model, I think it's called the Dartmouth or something, so, you know, we can go in and request, we've gotten, the septic, the health plan's all been approved. So if we get the wetlands approved, then it's just a matter of getting a zoning permit, and we'll finalize, you know, we've already, you know, got the footprint on here. And I'm 99% sure that's, you know, what we're going.
Bill, are all nine houses on single family lots?
Yes. Right.
So how do they bid out the infrastructure when you might have wetlands on one and?
Well, they'll, you know, they're gonna have to figure that out, you know, as part of their bidding. You know, it's what they're gonna, you know, charge for each one.
So who oversees the whole contracting piece of it? So there's 9 houses, you have a developer. How does that work in terms of making sure that all these are gonna be built?
Yeah,
Timeframe?
yeah, there will be like, you know, a clerk of the works, you know, will be watching over that. And then, you know, we have the building committee on this is myself, Ted Bent. I don't know if everyone's met Ted Bent, but Ted is on our thing. And also Bruce Adams is a part of the Housing Trust, you know, who has great experience. Brad has, obviously, that's his whole background is construction. So, you know, I think that we're in good shape in terms of, you know, our own, I mean, you know, the project in New Preston, I supervised. And it got built, so. No one's asking us for more money, so, but, you know, so I'll help out with it
The
too.
trust is still the center of decision making.
Yes, right, yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
Anything else?
Any other questions about that property? No. Oh. Okay, on to Wickham. and
Yes,
the new
so-
Property.
Yeah, so the Wickham property, I have a copy of the survey. And, it consists of 30 acres. I'll put it like this towards you. So as you come up Wickham Road, right over here, so it abuts the Wickham Rise LLC property, the old Wickham Rise School, which is now what I don't know if it's an inn or what it's gonna be, but that's where it abuts. And then if you come up Wickham Road, you'll see 2 lolly columns with a chain across it.
Yeah.
And Steve Sally supposedly has the keys for it, but I can't get a hold of him. But I'm gonna cut the
Is he
chain.
back in
I'm
town?
gonna cut the chain. But so the 30 acres comes up here. So we have, we put out an RFP for engineers to come and, you know, create a feasibility study for what can be done on it. We voted at our last meeting to enter into a contract with Haley Ward, which is an engineering firm out of Winstead. Haley is the guy there, the main engineer. I worked with him a long time ago, and he has been recommended by you know, the housing opportunity, you know, Litchfield. So we have a proposed contract for 23,000. I think it's 350. We told them we had to make it contingent upon getting funding for this because, you know, we obviously don't have any money to do that. So what I'm going to do is we confirmed the end of last
23,000 for,
doing all the feasibility study, you know, all the engineering, deep pits, perks, you know, possible, construction, how many units, et cetera.
Right, yeah,
So we confirmed late last week with them that they agreed that we wouldn't sign the contract right now, but once the funding source was available, we do that. So I'll get that to you, Judy, even tomorrow, maybe.
So this is the whole property.
Yeah,
right?
everything outlined in orange.
Where's Old Litchfield Road?
Old Litchfield Road is past
It's past-
the Wickham Rise School,
Okay,
and
I have the
then
map up
it
here.
branches out to
um,
Old Litchfield and then
there's a
continue.
map up there.
right.
Yeah.
You guys
Oh,
want
yeah,
the-
oh, there you,
Right.
yeah,
It's this one right here.
yeah, there
Oh,
we
yeah.
go, right, yeah,
Oh, yeah, great.
yeah, it's very nice, yeah, so it's that right there where it says,
So here's Wickham.
so did the assessor put a number on it? There's an
That's
issue,
the first time I've seen, it still in the records hasn't transferred ownership yet. I've been.
well, you know what
watching.
it is they, apparently, the lot line revision, the donor's attorney didn't do the lot line revision or something, so.
Well,
He's
and
in the
I
process of
I
doing it.
happened to be down in Shelley's office today talking about something else and this came up. And she talked about like planning, but
Well, they have to go to zoning for a lot line revision,
yeah, okay. So,
so,
and she's like, I haven't heard anything yet. So-
yeah, I think this is the first split, so.
Okay, oh, it'll be a first split. Well, that's
Right.
good.
Not
But
as
it's not a
complicated.
it's just a single divide, right? And
Right,
the
right.
One big piece is coming to the.
Yeah, it
trust.
used to be with a lot line revision back in the old days, you didn't have to go through any of the land use things, and then something happened somewhere, and then they decided, well, we better have the zoning commission look at this. So, but, that Jeff Koplop, the attorney, is, taking care of that.
So that's not gonna be a problem.
No,
Oh,
no,
so that top is, I see, is Wickham.
yes, that's
Yeah, this
the
is
old
Wickham
Wickham,
up here.
Yeah.
Here's Wickham
Yeah.
Rise.
Right.
This is weird the way, so,
Mitchell and Randy Solomon are right down here. Ooh.
Well-
Long and hard on Wickham.
well, so Judy. you wanna
Well,
share?
what I thought was interesting was I've tried to follow the minutes of the saga of the Wickham Rise thing.
Yeah.
And I remember that a lot of the public comments on it, where they'd rather see it turned into housing.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
apply
I
just
think
to
so.
basically to what we're trying to do.
Today at the meeting of do we call it the council or the commission?
Regional Housing Association.
Yes, right.
So the suggestion was with that before we do anything,
Yeah,
talk to the neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You know, whether or
Well,
not they're in
they-
favor or not in favor.
Well,
you know, just
we
to-
did that with the Vincent Farm and,
Yeah.
and a number of the neighbors were against it.
Mhm. Yeah, well,
And we talked with them and explained what we're doing and, they never, did anything in terms of filing a lawsuit or doing anything, so. I mean, people don't like change,
right.
everybody feels they have a proprietary interest in their neighbor's property.
Well,
Yeah.
if it's next door,
It's-
you know,
Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, no one
You
likes
know.
to see a change.
Yeah.
Bill, do you happen to know where the Anderson house is, that big mansion that he built up? Is it off
I'm trying to think, Anderson,
Yeah, but
the hedge fund guy?
oh, Keith Anderson, yeah,
Oh,
he's off of Judia
Yeah, he's on
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's off, if you go up Plum Hill
Yeah,
and then,
You go at the corner of Bell and Judea.
right, he is right. There's a little house there
He's
that,
got both sides of the road.
so he bought the
That one?
Doug and Mary Ann Green's house, that little one at the corner.
okay, and where's how far is the
back on
property?
the
from there?
Solomon, sorry.
Probably a half a mile or more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the
He'd be
thing
one of
is,
the neighbors you'd be talking to then, right?
maybe-
Well, so we're gonna have some discussions with some folks here in town about, getting some private money in this too, so that's something I'm working on.
good for
You
you.
know, one of the things too, I think is a selling point is that we're controlling what the houses are like. How many people are gonna live
Right.
here? These are not people who are going to have lights on all night because we won't, we have
Right.
control over how this.
Yeah.
At some level. Now, are they buying them or renting them?
So what,
Well,
I mean, I'm new to this game.
here's the situation, so. We have rental housing, which we've done multifamily, we did the single family homes, first time home buyer thing at the Vincent Farm, so. The big thing is what funding, vaults are open, and there was, what is the state funding right now?
Mhm.
Are they funding first-time home buyer? Are they doing some multifamily? Ideally, you could have a mix of both.
Which would be nice.
Yeah, and
You
if
know,
you just
because
had
we have a need
two-story
for both.
buildings, you could still have multi-family.
Right, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think elevation is
Well, if-
what's gonna,
if-
because this is high, isn't it?
yeah, well, if you, on Wickham
Right.
and you see the school and, a lot of it's burned and it's in bad shape, but back in 1969, they completed 3 dormitories, which are like, right, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
that had like, I think 25 kids or something. So I mean, there were 75 people living in those,
Already, yeah.
3 things. So,
yeah, but different,
which
when the
was like
kids,
multifamily.
if
Yeah.
kids are bad, really bad, you send them home. People live next to you,
But why would?
I mean, I
Well,
think it's a
but so
different,
with multifamily, we have leases and,
Yeah.
it would stipulate,
I'm sure,
what conduct
Yeah.
that they have to
Yeah.
meet, so
good,
that's not an issue. And on the multifamily, we have covenants and
yeah,
the, the covenants we have with them, basically it's like a lease. I mean, because we are leasing, the way those work is we lease them the land for 99 years with an option for another 99 years. And then, they own the home.
Oh, that's the limited equity homes, not the
Yeah.
multifamily.
Right. And so that would be essentially the way we do that. So, but how would we do a mix? How we'd split this up?
Yeah.
We'd split it up into lots. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on here. You're gonna have to put in a town road, up to town standards. So there's gonna be, some
Yeah,
significant
take-
cost.
So this is,
long
this is
time.
really interesting because if zoning is permitted the old Wickham school to be turned into essentially condos, is what they're talking about, right?
Well, I think that's
In.
what they wanted to
Well,
do.
I thought they were starting with an N, but then they sort of worked their way over to,
Well, they wanted to do condos.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there was no multifamily zoning regulations.
And there still isn't.
And,
It's
right, and there
coming.
still
It's
is.
coming.
So, but they were advertising them as condos for sale.
Right.
At Sotheby's. And then someone told them like,
Oh,
sorry,
really?
you never saw them?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I heard.
So
about
that's what they, and really, in terms, I don't know what, I saw something that it's for sale and they're asking a lot of money. I can't. I mean, I don't see financially how you make an inn work. No matter what you have in terms of banquet stuff.
well,
But if they-
I guess the issue is that the people who own the property right above it have the right of review of the plans.
In terms of the court settlement they had?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but I mean,
So-
my
so
understanding,
that's-
they got their zoning permit, they actually have a zoning
To
permit
build
now.
a hotel.
They can start building the inn. Or the hotel, or whatever it is.
But
But
apparently this is outside of the zoning. This is an agreement that the owners of that abutting property have.
I'm not,
I-
no, I'm not that I'm
Be
aware,
surprised.
they have a zoning permit, I don't think there's any, but what's interesting is if the town passes a multifamily zoning regulation. It might be that somebody buys it and scraps the whole hotel inn resort
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And builds condominiums. Or the other option for them is, they can use what we did at the Vincent Farm with the Connecticut General Statutes 830G, which says if 30% of the homes are affordable.
You can do
then
whatever.
you can do whatever you want. There's no zoning regulations that apply to you. You're subject to public health code, traffic, and that's basically it.
So all I'm getting at is, if both these projects take off at the same time,
Yeah, you could have an elected one. I mean, the ideal thing for that Wickham property would be to do, the Quarry Ridge and Bee Brook are just, every time, they don't even go on the market, that, it's all.
Right.
Under, people just buy it, and they know that it's someone dies or whatever, and they call up the family and. And so, I mean, that would be a much better use of the property than, I mean, in terms of
Yes.
traffic and.
Yeah.
And in terms of the needs of the town.
Yeah, I mean, the town doesn't need another Mayflower,
Right.
so.
But this is all wooded
Maybe a better-
also, which is a wonder.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ideal thing would be you put the houses and all that would be up here, so that when you drive by here. You don't have any idea that any of this stuff is up here. I mean, it becomes,
Right,
it's sort of like.
Right.
you know, yeah,
Any preliminary idea about how many units you're thinking about?
not
Because you have to
without.
do the
You know,
feasibility.
once we get the feasibility study, then we can, and then, we'll come back and then we need to talk about, what you guys want. What kind of things do you want on this property? I mean, we want to work with you to meet the needs of the town.
If the trust and the commission doesn't have any money, would they consider letting Habitat have some of that?
No, absolutely not, because we would be doing our own financing and that, and we want to control, all the architectural things and everything.
Yeah, and
else.
Habitat apparently has a different plans. Because part of it, because they mentioned today at this meeting that Habitat would not be included in these other plans for the.
Right.
those
Right,
other
they
nine
do their
houses,
own
because they
thing.
do their own thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're good.
What?
Aren't they a for-profit
No,
organization?
No,
No,
but-
their funding, their model is different,
Right,
And-
it's a different
and we
model.
would prefer that they stay affordable in perpetuity. And in Habitat's model, they phase out to market rate
What
eventually.
are those houses selling for over off of Micah? I heard 400,000.
Those Habitat,
Yeah.
it cost them almost that to build. But the last one that they sold, I had the copy.
The 300s, I think, 350 or something, no, 375?
No, because
280.
they're following.
280?
280.
Oh,
I
really?
think, I think the mortgage is for less, they're following the Chaffa guidelines, and then the second mortgage is like, is huge.
And we are close to 380 in build costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I think it's
And,
still like
and a lot of it's been drainage, infrastructure,
Yeah.
stuff that,
yeah.
that we had no idea we would have to redo from the original 20-year-old plan.
What will they say as affordable, those houses?
So. No, the way that their funding model works is the first mortgage is the homeowner, and they've said that they're following the Chaffa guidelines, so those should be around 220 to 30. Habitat underwrites the balance of that, so it's a second mortgage for this last one, I think was like 160,000. Over 15 years, 12 to 15 years. And with each year they live there, it's written off.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Habitat reserves the right of first refusal if they sell, so if it's early in the mortgage. They will most likely,
Yeah, and
Want it back.
we do the same thing, we have a right of first refusal.
yeah,
on-
but if
on
it's
this,
towards
when
the
they
end
sell.
of the 15 years. Once Habitat's mortgage, once they've lived in it the full extent and it's completely forgiven the second mortgage. Then I think it can go to market rate. The thing about those houses though is they are. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Daryl, but you can't really add on to, the septic won't let you add on to them, there's not, and they're very small lots. So
Yeah,
they,
are.
even if they fall out of capital A affordable, they shouldn't ever.
Did they change the condo from a condo to single family or what
All
is it?
single families.
They're awesome.
Yeah, because they came to us. The owners of the property wanted to give it to us and I just couldn't make it work with our model. And what I told, we met with Habitat because they wanted us to help, and I said, if you can get the zoning to change it from. A condominium to splitting it up into single lots, I said, I know there's shared septic systems. But just, having agreements on that, but then it makes it practical to do. So if they did that, that's great.
There's a homeowners association stuff.
Is there still? I mean, the problem we had with the home, I mean, if you're a first time home buyer, you don't have a lot of money, but now you have to have someone else cut your lawn. Shovel your I mean. And if you even want to do it yourself, you're paying for the other people. So it just didn't.
So when the trust owns the property, and you're doing single family home,
Right.
is that still a land lease?
Yes, so
It is,
we
okay,
leased
so-
them the land and
So
then.
you got ultimate control.
And then we handled, because under 830G, so the company I ran for like 15 years. I think I told you, we did 118 single family homes like this in one place in Walcott. Okay, and we managed all the resale of them. All those were sold to people at 80% of area median income. So we handled all the resales. And we had to vet, like we'll do on Vincent Farm. If any of the current owners go to sell them, they have to, the buyers have to be vetted by us, they have to submit their tax returns to me or in our committee, whatever. To make sure that they are, you know, meeting the
So the sale
requirements.
price still meets them.
Yeah, and so the three are, one's at 60% of AMI, one at 80, and one at 100%. So that changes on an annual basis based on HUD's, you know, computing what you know, the area median income is. So that determines what they can sell it for. And what we did with the ones at New Samaritan, you know, we didn't use real estate agents. We actually marketed them and sold them. But we didn't, if someone wanted to use a real estate agent, it was fine, but we wouldn't allow that to be added to the, you know, the sales cost. They
But
had
the
to
interesting part is right of first refusal, so you can literally buy the house.
Yeah, so what
and
we
sell
did,
it within guidelines.
yeah, so, you know, in the 15 years that I was running those, you know, we hit the real bad real estate market there, the jobs went away, so there were 3 or 4 foreclosures. You know, the people lost their jobs in that, so when the bank foreclosed, we bought the houses back. And then resold them. You know, so that we to keep it in the.
Well, I was curious about what happened to the property, but now you told me it's the land lease. That's really the secret to it.
Yeah, and then they pay, you know, the assessment on it is, you know, there was actually a bill in the legislature on it trying to change it, but it's based, you know, because there's not a lot of comparables, so they base it on what's the maximum sales price you could get for it. So what we did in Walcott was every year we updated, you know, the values on the homes based on what the area median income was. So, you know, I had a paralegal that was just her job that she did, you know, 365 days a year. And then I helped her.
And the trust has all of that mechanism in place. You have people.
Well, it's me right now. So what, and it doesn't cost anything because I don't get paid. But you know, we're going to have to train, you know, some of the new people we have. You know, I'll show them how it works. You know, we do every year I do coupons. You know, I send out the 12 coupons for the year for the rent. You know, the rent right now is $55 a month, which covers the insurance we have on the property. You know, we're not trying to make any money off it. So, you know, we just look to see what the insurance cost is going to be and then divide it up. But yes, we're going. That's one of the things that we're going to have to develop because, you know, life is
When
fragile.
you say the rent, you mean the land lease.
Yeah, and the backup for this is my old company, New Samaritan. If there's a problem, you know, can take over the whole, you know, because they're still doing that for the, you know, 118 single family homes in Walcott. So I've talked with the folks there.
Bill,
You know, my staff, full
can
staff.
Prem help with any of that?
Does what?
The, Anne Marie, doesn't she works with Prem, right?
Yeah, but she doesn't manage the houses. They don't do, it's a very specialized thing. It's not the same as managing rental
Okay.
property. There's not a whole lot of groups that do this.
I think, Jocelyn said that one of their upcoming webinars was gonna be about management.
Well,
Or maybe it was.
Well, I do, so I serve on the board of the Cornwall Housing Corporation too, so I'm involved with doing the same thing, you know, for them on that project, and so they actually have someone that is doing okay with some of the houses they have. So I think one of the things we're trying to do with Jocelyn would be, you know, to get the state funding, but to have someone who would manage all these resales.
Right, like, yep.
Because there's gonna be a bunch of them. I mean,
That would be
hopefully we
great.
can do, you know, I mean, not just this property, but hopefully we can get some more property that we can do more homes on. And then, you know, it actually, you know, we could actually increase the rents a little bit. That would help cover some of the cost of hiring someone. And if we can get enough of these, you know, with the other folks here in the northwest
Yeah.
corner, you know, generate enough income to actually hire someone to do.
I'm still trying to also figure out who can manage the resale of the 4 original affordable in perpetuity houses on my fields.
So
That
what does Habitat do for those when do they manage the resales? Because, you know,
No.
you know, all our things, we have,
Who does that?
Nobody right now,
yeah, I mean, that's because
problem.
one of the things with 830G, like when we did this and when we did the project up in Wolcott, is you've got to prove. I had to prove to the planning commission that we had the ability, to manage these, because that's part of 830G is that if you're doing 99-year leases, someone's got to be in place to do it. So, they knew that I could do it.
Yeah,
But I think that would be a great
Part
thing.
of their affordability plan had a company in it, and I can't find them.
Yeah, so there are groups.
So.
I mean, my old company doesn't really do any third-party stuff. But there probably are a couple. I think,
It's a
when,
business someone can develop.
well, when they developed that, because they used, I think they used 830G, but they had to have Winston and Joe. They had to have somebody to manage the resale of the 4 units. So, that aren't the Habitat ones.
Yeah, no, they had a company listed and they're out of
But,
business. I can't
well,
find them.
You
Yeah.
told me that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
so and it's like this black hole of nobody wants it.
That's kind of dangerous in a way, because there has to be, a company in charge of handling those. Because, the danger is that, I mean, one of the problems we ran into with the ones in Walcott was, they take out home equity loans, so they can't refinance anything without us signing off on it. And they were just getting these loans, and it was like, I had to go to these banks and say, guess what? You're out of luck, because I own the land, your mortgage isn't worth a goddamn thing, so maybe you shouldn't be lending money to these people without our approval, so. But so there's a lot of
Yeah, there's
administrative things. I mean, someone has to know what the covenants are, know how they work. And there's a lot of stuff goes into it.
But typically you don't allow second mortgages, right?
No, they can't do any refinancing without our approval.
Well, it's true, they don't own the property, so.
They don't, I mean, the bank is not gonna
And if they
loan
do
money.
title for a trust, a title.
Well, so what happened with these banks is they weren't doing title searches. They knew that the people had they owned the property, here's the deed, and
Yeah.
which was, I mean, if I were the owner of the bank or a shareholder, I'd have been kind of upset that they're loaning money to people that if they default on the loan, there's no security for it. Anyhow, I think some people, some of the banks got.
so, anyway, the housing trust is going to need money. in the
Yeah,
future.
so I'm gonna get
And-
to you, I'll try and get it to you.
But I just want to say also that, the money that's in the budget,
Yeah,
right
so
now-
we're gonna be showing up, as many of us can show up to
Yes.
the town meeting on
yeah,
Thursday. And I hope,
So there's 2 issues. There's the money that's in the budget, which is a lot less than we had asked for.
250, right? Is that
Well,
what?
it's 125.
Are you sure?
But I thought they threw in
I thought they threw in
100,000 from the
maybe
haystack.
And then that's a second issue. That's a second vote,
Okay,
voting on the sale
yeah,
of
so
that
it's,
property.
they do it they have it as a separate motion?
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't
Yeah,
find an
it
agenda.
I
shows-
have the agenda
Judy,
here.
it shows as a separate motion.
Yeah, so we need
I
to,
thought so.
we need to support both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess too, Judy, what we wanted to discuss was how can we work with all of you jointly? I mean, the ordinance and set up the housing commission sets forth what you're doing, and we have our, mission stuff.
Right.
But, how can we coordinate? And, we had talked,
Well, I think having a meeting like this has been very fruitful.
yeah, and I think, and maybe Bruce and Ted can jump in and Linda can as well. Is what are some of the things that we can do to help you? I mean, we can obviously, the way it was drawn up, the ordinance was that we would do like the building things and do all
Right.
that, but that you
And we
guys,
do the financing, and then we're trying to do the supporting. I'm writing things for the newsletters and stuff
yeah,
like that.
and I
doing
think
that.
one of the things we had, when this came up with the Board of Finance, I was there, I think Ted, you were there, weren't you? Yeah, you're on the Board of Finance, what the hell, yeah. But anyhow,
I believe 250 was supposed to be.
Yeah, I thought.
yeah,
It's
But-
150 and
And
100.
And
and
All right, it's
100.
150.
But I think one of the things that sort of had me, my jaw dropping was that you know, when I mentioned the town had adopted an affordable housing program like the other 168 towns, says I didn't know it. You know, that
I know.
that it called for 30 houses by 2027. And I tried to remind him that, you know, in 2002, I was on the housing study committee, and the final recommendation was 95 houses by 2012. And of course, it sat on the shelf and no houses were built. So I think the key thing is, how do we educate the public, the legislative body? I mean, you know, when you look at the town government, the selectmen and the board of finance are like the executive, right?
Right.
They propose a budget and that goes, but the legislative body is the whole town.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that appropriate the money. So in the end, I mean, you know, you have the good judgment of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, but in the end, the legislative body can, you know, someone could make a motion at this meeting to say, I think we should give $500,000.
$5 million.
Yeah, and if it passes, then they have to adjust all
Yeah.
their things. So, but we've got to educate people about what's happening in town, what some of the future projections are, which, you know, the Northwest Hills Council of Government has from 2015, you know, and you know, what do we want the town to be? You know, I know, you know, Daryl and I've talked about, you know, how do we get young people can be in the fire department or in the ambulance
Yeah.
or serve on the boards and commissions? You know, how do we get those? You know, I told you the story, you know, Tyler and Emily went through the primary school in the mid-80s. And there were 2 sections in the kindergarten of 20 each. Now, my grandson's in kindergarten, there's 8 children in one section of the kindergarten, and that doesn't bode well. It
No.
means that there's not a lot of young people here
No, it's
because,
not good for the kids.
I mean, I'm not having
Hopefully
kids
it's on the
anymore. You know, so these are things that the town,
Well,
we all need to
did you
talk
look
about.
at this? Did you look at this? The
Uh,
playbook and the toolkit?
Yeah,
Have you looked at
yeah,
that?
we had,
There's a lot of good stuff in here.
yeah, we had, Lindsay came and spoke with us and we all, you know,
Right.
have access to this.
Right.
In fact, I'll steal this one, so, you know, I have
Yeah.
it printed out on something, doesn't have nice
So,
color.
Well, I was just saying, quick, before we move on to the strategies for communication, when it comes to just the voting, and because I was reviewing our minutes from before, there was confusion at the last Board of Finance when they were approving the last bit of the money for,
I heard something,
Baldwin.
this was like last week, was it?
no, it was like a month ago, but their confusion and
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up because the ordinance, the housing commission updated the ordinance to include land with a house on it, in case the housing commission wanted to buy a building. The way it was written, it wouldn't allow that.
Right.
But it appears
That's also gonna be voted on tomorrow.
that is
correct?
also gonna be voted on, but they were confused, the Board of Finance got really hung up on the fact that they had to vote on approve, which actually they didn't need to because it was less than 10,000 and it really only needed to go to the Board of Selectmen. But anyway, it went to Board of Finance. And because there were multiple invoices for Baldwin, they felt that it exceeded the 10,000 threshold and that it should go to a town meeting because it was the same property, even though they were different projects, like one was surveying and one was perk testing. So keeping in mind that whatever you do on the new property, it's bigger than 10,000, so it's gonna have to go to a town meeting. So the more you can lump together, instead of every little invoice,
Right, yeah.
you know, like big project.
Yeah, I saw in your minutes, I think you had mentioned, you know, upping that number. And I think, you know, there's so much bureaucracy in developing a property. I mean, you know, this wetlands thing is going on and, you know, and we're gonna have the zoning, hopefully that goes smooth, but you know, it would be nice to be able to have a larger amount that you don't have to go through you know, the whole process of, you know, Board of Finance, Selectmen and town meeting. I mean, because it just
But
delays.
then you have to, you know, put that down and send it to us and then we
Yeah, so
send
I
it to
mean,
the selectmen and.
yeah, I mean, because I think, you know, so, you know, we'll have the contract for Haley Ward on this. But there's nothing else that we have that we need money for. Ideally, if we could package, you know, say in advance, well, we have this and that, and we need $70,000.
But it's hard to estimate that even.
Yeah, I mean, there
Well,
needs to
until
be,
you have the engineering done, you can't then
Yeah,
move to the
yeah.
next phase to
Right,
get the
so
drawings and stuff.
I
But
think
maybe
that
the
might-
next phase
that
would
might be a good thing for the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance to discuss was how can we streamline this process? Because, the senior housing projects I did were all financed either by HUD or USDA, Department of Agriculture. And the bureaucracy in it is just, it takes years to go through the thing. And we're sort of running, this is obviously in a much lesser scale, but it's still the same. You can't work in a timely fashion. I mean, you got to go through wetlands, you got to go through zoning, historic,
Wow.
if you take any state money, so this project on Baldwin Hill, so what the state has is they make you do an archaeological study. So the last senior housing project I did in Hartford, so I had to do that, and then it was in a historic district too. So I ended up having to pay, they found some Indian something, and that cost me $50,000, which wasn't in the budget. And then, I worked with the folks in Southbury, Pierce Hollow. They got, the town got 45 acres from the state for senior housing. So I worked with their committee for 2 years, trying to put a project together. So the archaeological study of this 45 acres was like $100,000. And then they found stuff. So they said it's going to take 2 years for us to go through all this stuff to figure out. I'm going, I just told these people, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
The town we got 1.5 million from the town of Southbury for ARPA funds. And then it just got to, by the time all this stuff was going on, the state would not finance strictly senior housing anymore. It had to be multi-generational. So
Yeah.
that just killed the whole project
Yeah.
because the state also said the 45 acres can only be used for senior housing. And then, it was like, you got to shoot yourself in the head, so. But those are the
Well, do
things.
you have suggestions?
So,
for
well,
how
on
to
this Baldwin,
streamline it?
so let me tell you about this Baldwin Hill thing. So the original money that we went for, the discussions with the state was apparently it must have been the Averill Farm or somewhere that they found some Indian arrowheads or something. I mean, I know when I worked for Howie Bronson, Ned Swigert used to come behind us when I was plowing and he'd be looking through everything and find Indian. But so they were going to have us do an archaeological study on this. It was going to cost, I think, $20,000. And, I don't know that the people in
And are you
town,
going to have to or not?
well, on this project, I don't know. We may have to end up in that situation. I'm not sure how it's going to work. But
When do
these
you find that out?
when they send us the thing that says, here's what you got to do.
And who is that sends it to?
The state,
The state.
it's called SHRPO, State Historic. And I mean, it's not like, God bless, the Indians were good people, but it wasn't like a sophisticated culture. I mean, they didn't have videotapes and books and,
Oh my
We
God.
have our.
paintings and stuff, yeah. So anyhow,
Oh my.
those are some of the bureaucratic things that can create problems, but it'd be nice.
Well, if you have suggestions about how to streamline it,
Yeah,
give it to me,
Well, I
and
think-
we'll talk
I
about it.
think
and
what
maybe
would
we
be
can make a
good-
Suggestion.
would be, here's the housing commission. Is that the housing commission would have authority, to look at these things and, go through a streamlined funding process. I think you had brought up in the minutes,
I think
wasn't
we
it?
talked about at the last meeting, if we could do these by project. So that you're not going for every little line item for 5,000 for this and 10,000 for that. And if they would give or policy change or regulation to allow us to do these by project so that what needs to be done.
Right.
That's what we would do.
But we don't know. That's.
Well, I
the
think
point.
But there's a ballpark, isn't there? You will know.
No, well, Henrietta, I thought you had a good comment about that. I think you were talking about 60,000 or something as an upper.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be,
You have to
helpful.
propose a change to the ordinance, and then
Right.
it goes to the selectmen, it goes to a
Yeah.
town meeting.
And you,
But we did change the ordinance last year to go from 5,000 to 10,000, and
But
there was a fair amount of pushback, and we're changing it again to purchase
Would be allowed to
land
purchase.
with a house on it or a structure of any sort. So, you know, it's just going back again, and we can
But
try.
the projects are bigger and, you know, we do have this mandate. So I mean, to me, it just
Yeah.
makes sense, change the ordinance.
And-
How difficult is it to go to the board to get approval? It isn't that difficult, is it? Is it?
Yeah.
No, they meet monthly or selectmen meet.
Town meeting on
Yeah.
Thursday, the ordinance is on again. You know, you have to have the lawyer write it. The housing commission approves it, it goes to the board of selectmen, and then they put it on an agenda for a town meeting. It's only as hard as the opposition makes it. It could be really easy, right? Or it could not.
Couldn't you have a proposal that has approximate ballpark numbers for the variety of things? And
Right.
then if you ask for the $60,000, if you don't use it all, you give it back to them. I mean, wouldn't that make them happy? Would save them time, it would
Who
save
knows?
you time.
But it's
And maybe they'd be
I
sports.
won't
electric-
believe you'll give it back.
Well, but they're the town, they have the power.
There's a
Well,
sense of it being taxpayer money and wanting control over it. So, you know, I can't predict how much pushback there would be, but the intent, if you read the ordinance, it's really, the intent is to make sure that the largest group of people have the most say.
Yeah.
And that no project could all of a sudden just like happen without the people knowing.
Yeah, but I mean, so what's gonna happen is, that they appropriate the 125 or 150 and the 100. And that, so the money is appropriated, then it's a question of who's responsible for seeing that it gets, doled out for whatever the project is. And it would make sense, I think, as you said, Henrietta, was to say, okay, here's this project for a single family home. We estimate, as Linda said, it's gonna cost this much for, site clearing, the engineer, boom, boom, boom. And then you folks, have the authority to disperse that money, subject to the housing trust or whoever the other nonprofit group is, presenting you with legitimate contracts or whatever that you can, I mean, that would make it a whole lot easier than going, because the money's already appropriated.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like, why, the town votes to set aside $250,000. So why do you have to go back to them?
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make no sense at all to me.
So oh wait, I'm
that's
not
gonna
sharing.
get a lot of pushback.
Yeah, it will get a lot of
But that
pushback.
is it.
I mean,
What?
Oh,
This is from finance. Yeah, they're pretty.
Townspeople.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
But if
before you get pushback from finance, it'll be the board of
So
selectmen.
they're still monitoring. the-
Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to the whole part of, I guess, communication thing is that it is, this is coming in piecemeal, like we come in for this project, and then we have another project, and maybe another nonprofit comes in, that springs up that wants to do something. But there's got to be some acknowledgement on the part of the town that they need to, at some point, they're gonna have to appropriate X amount of dollars if they want to create, like, when they said they wanted to do 95 homes, nothing happened. Now they want to do,
Now it's 30.
30.
Yeah,
but there's nobody's come together to say, well, we're gonna have to invest money in this. What is it, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and then put in the budget, because the impact of where we're going, the Northwest Hills Council of Government has the town of Washington's population shrinking at the time it was done in 2015 by 30% to 2,400 and something.
Right.
What impact is that having on the schools? When Judy and I were on the school board together for 8-9 years, the budget hearings were horrible. I mean, people would come and they'd scream about taxes and that. And now, the last, I don't know how many years, but no one ever says anything about $35,000 per pupil.
yeah.
And why? Because all the weekenders and the summer people are close to 40% of the community. They're essentially, I remember back studying in the 50s, New Milford wanted to increase the tax base. So they did industrial. They had Nestle's came in, Kimberly-Clark, Century Brass, that was going to give them all this tax money that they could use to subsidize the schools. Well, George Ward used to say to me, Bill, our industry is second home and weekenders. They don't put any kids in the school. That's like 70%, 70 cents of every dollar. So all that money is just going to subsidize. And so, I mean, at some point,
Yeah, we're not.
you know, what do people in town, I mean, that's
Yeah.
sort of the thing. I mean, I talk to people individually, but what do they want the town of Washington to become? Because if they don't do something, this is what's going to happen to them. It's going to become, you know, just like you have on the Cape, you know, where everybody comes in the summer and then they leave. Well, how are you going to sustain businesses? Can they make enough money in 5 months or something to stay open? I mean, I know, you know, the Washington Food Market was my first client in 1975, and George and Gene Verastro. And I remember them saying, you know, in the winter, it's just a struggle because all these people don't come up. You know, people come up for the
Yeah.
summer. So, you know, how does all this impact
So
what we want our town to be?
I'm reading the ordinance here. I have the ordinance pulled up for the an ordinance to establish an affordable housing fund, and it dictates how expenditures work from the fund. And I am wondering if without changing the ordinance, we could go to a town meeting with a proposal and an approval of up to 100,000 or whatever it is
Yeah.
for this project
Yeah, and list it.
to
here it
be approved along the way by the housing commission. Like, I don't know, I wonder
Well,
if there's a way to word that so that it could be one meeting and it's just the housing commission kind of like signing off as it's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what you have,
Working.
the legislative body approves the budget, you know, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance propose the budget, but the budget is appropriated by the people, right? And if they appropriate the $250,000, then why, and they're
Why
gonna give it
can't
to
we
the
look at
housing
it?
commission,
Yeah.
in other words, it's set aside for the housing commission. Why does the housing, I mean, what's the point of having a housing
Well,
commission?
that's how this was
You know,
set
I
up in
mean-
2006.
But you know,
The
the whole
fund.
parallel of
Every expenditure from the
how,
fund.
how we wanna work, I mean, when someone builds a house. Daryl, you're gonna know more about this, you know, you give them people, the builder comes in, he says, well, it's gonna cost, you know, $1 million for me to build this house for you, because this is electric, blah, 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 blah. And they presume that's it, they go along with that, the guy has to come up with the money, blah, blah. And no one is you know, doing the nitpicking of, you don't go back every month and renegotiate. I don't think, you end up paying what you have to pay.
Well, the other,
And,
yeah.
and we're much more honest, I mean, we're a very honest group of people, there are a lot of people looking at this stuff. So it's not as if the town is getting taken. If anything, you're saving the time of people on the commissions, many of whom, as we know, are
right,
volunteers.
and the other thing is you have to act quickly. So in other words, a property, let's like Vincent Farm. So that came up for sale. Now, if we'd had to go through the process of the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting, we never would have bought that because there were other people that were offering money for it, right? So we got a loan, you know, from one of the members of the housing trust and we bought. But I mean, if we had to go through the housing commission and the town, we're never gonna be able to buy properties.
So,
It's just
all
not
right,
gonna
so
work.
if this is something that the housing commission is interested in doing, maybe we need to talk to a lawyer to come up with a proposal to, you know, effectuate this.
Well, the reality of it is they appropriate the money, so you have that money in your budget, that is your
Yeah.
money.
I know.
And they have to have enough trust and faith in your judgment, because you actually know more than they do about affordable housing and all the things, is the one to say that this is what we're gonna do with it.
Okay, but right now, that's not the way it is.
That's not the way
So
it is,
what I'm-
absolutely not.
Does
I mean, it's sort
somebody-
of like,
all right, so just members of the commission here, we have four of us. Did somebody want to make a motion to contact a lawyer to write up a change in the ordinance so that we can do that?
I think the point.
Why don't we talk to people it's the selectmen and the board of finance first.
Yeah, I think
Because-
Charles is right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Charles is right.
Ted's sitting here and Ted.
Right. No, you
How would
need,
you feel if we came to you with something
I
like
think
this?
it's essential.
You think it's essential? See, that's a good sign.
I think the
But
key,
there are other members of the board
Who will.
We don't.
who do not support affordable housing.
well,
It's worth getting a sense of who would vote for it.
yeah, I think before you do that, Judy, that Charles is right, that you really need to have a discussion with them. And, you know, it's sort of like, you're the housing commission and you're appropriating the money for the housing commission, then you're
Well, you
telling,
don't have to convince me.
Right.
We have to convince them.
you get it.
But anything that you don't spend on these, you know, designated needs, you give back to them.
Right.
No, they don't, no, they keep the money.
It would stay in the fund.
There's
Yeah,
always
so
a
the
project.
ordinance that governs the fund is what needs to be addressed. So I think you're right. It needs to be a conversation with the selectmen. It would be not just a random lawyer, but the town lawyer who.
Yeah, no,
crafted
not
the-
just no.
Right, and not anybody is just allowed to contact the town lawyer. It has to be
No,
the
we have
chair
to-
or the selectmen.
It's
So
really a
there's budget.
policy issue more than, I mean, the legal part of it's just a scrivener. I mean, it's the policy of, I mean, if they're appropriating the money for that, I mean, what does the planning commission do? What does the zoning commission do when they have to, you know, they get appropriated money to do stuff? They don't go back to the board of finance, or do they, Ted?
No,
No, I mean, they have the money in their budget,
Well, I
so.
think that the zoning ran out of money and
Well,
had to go back.
Yeah.
I mean,
this year
they
because
couldn't do
because they were
things.
doing the multifamily housing.
Well, the reality is, I mean, if you look at the general fund, my understanding from the old days when I was the town attorney for 8 years was that you're supposed to have at least 2 months worth of revenue, you know, on reserve for
right
things.
now we're at 4.
Yeah, so they got 4. I mean, there's just, the town,
There's
The-
no problem.
there's just way too much money in the general fund. I mean, if
Yeah.
you read, you know, UConn used to have all the handbooks. I think they still do for Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, you know, because people don't have the experience.
But,
And it's like 2 months. And it's like, you know,
but Bill, the problem is going to be that if they do it for us, then there are gonna be other commissions and other
well,
parts that
but the
they're
other
gonna
ones,
have to think about.
I
as
think
well.
they do, Charlie. I think they do, you know, that they,
I don't
no
know
one,
what they
the
do.
zoning commission, the planning.
So are
com-
we the only ones then that?
I don't know.
that have to
I don't
go?
know.
Good
No.
question.
That's what we need.
All I know is what our ordinance
Yeah,
is.
So we need.
There's an
And we
open
did up
space
it.
fund. There are a few funds that are monies set aside that are not part of the general fund and are not part of operating that stay and that are established. And there's an ordinance, I'm pretty sure, that establishes how the open space fund is also doled out. So
But you know, if you have someone on the finance board, and I think Ted implied there may be people who don't think affordable housing is a good idea, number one. And so are they allowed to bring that view to the table, although it is an overriding plan for the whole town? And is that an appropriate position for someone on finance?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but I mean, they have it, but is it appropriate? Is it right? Can they go against the overriding plan of the town that
So-
everyone's agreed on?
Here's the
I don't
deal,
know.
here's, you know, because we have the purest form of democracy, everybody votes, you don't have any representatives. And the reality of it is the legislative body makes the decisions. If at this town meeting, in 2 days from now, and I call this the Salem Church corollary. So the Salem Church had that little church on the left as you go over the bridge.
Yeah,
It had no septic system, okay? But they had a cesspool, and because no one was living there, and they were just have, you know, some meetings in the church service, so it never was a problem. But when they decided to build the new church, they had to sell that. Well, guess what? No one's gonna buy this building because it doesn't have a septic system. If it's not gonna be a church, it's useless. So all you have to have is 25 people to petition for a town meeting. If you do, you can call a town meeting. So 25 of us got together and said, okay. So they got 25 people together to call for a town meeting for the town to grant them an easement on the school property to build a septic system, okay? You know, I was the lawyer for the town. I put things together. This is what we have to do. everybody in the church showed up at the meeting and they granted themselves an easement on the school. So the sewer pipe goes under Route 47, down School Street. So the reality is the legislative body can do whatever it
Yeah,
wants.
usually it gets
What the Board of
bodies out.
Finance and the Board of Selectmen say is meaningless. I mean, in
Good.
terms of what the legislative body appropriates the money. It's not the Board of Selectmen, it's not the Board of Finance. You're the intelligent, thoughtful people who are making sure we don't spend money foolishly. But in the end, it's the legislative body that determines what funds are appropriated. And it should be, if they're appropriated for you guys, that you have the authority to spend them. So maybe you limited like so much, Henrietta said about so much per project. You can't allocate more than 50,000 or 100,000 or something per project without, so there's some kind of control. But I mean, you should be trusted, just like the other commissions are, to expend the money that not the Board of Selectmen gives you or the Board of Finance, the town, we give it to.
And hopefully they will.
Well, and
Well,
I
I
think,
think
and I
Thursday
think,
night.
and I think part of that is the whole communication thing is that we need, when the Board of Finance, some of the people on the Board of Finance are not aware that the town adopted an affordable housing plan, that is a jaw dropper.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be aware of that because they should have been participating in the
Well,
plan.
it was in the
They were
town newsletter, it was
They were
everywhere.
advised of that plan in February, I read it to them.
Yeah,
Yes, and it was everywhere.
Yeah,
It would
so-
be nice if some of those members were a little more engaged.
but
in
I
what's
think
happening
one
in
of the
town.
things is that we don't. We come up with these plans, they appoint, so I was on the open space committee. And what we did there back in 2000. And so what we said was that, we said that the town should appropriate $50,000 a year, split the Conservation Commission up, so that, have a separate wetlands and Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission would manage the appropriated funds. And then a plan, and then, Mike Jackson was head of the Board of Finance. And they appropriated 50,000 for a few years, and Mike came to me and said, what are they doing with this money? Because he was also president of Steep Rock. He said, this is nuts. He said, we're appropriating all this money and they don't buy anything. So I remember that parcel in New Preston,
Did buy that.
Right, well, they came to the Conservation Commission and they voted not to buy it. And then it was like, at that point, Mike said, that's it, you got 600 something thousand here. So then.
Bought it.
Yeah, they bought it, but here's what the problem was at the town meeting. I think it was Carlos Canal gets up and says, they were paying 600 something thousand, and he goes to Chet Lyon. Well, what was it appraised at? And he goes 380,000. And I'm thinking, why the hell are we paying 600,000 when it's appraised at 380? And it was like, but that's the sort of thing, like, if you're going to appropriate the money, it's got to be spent. And I think that was an issue with the Housing Commission when it started, was that, there wasn't a lot of like what you guys are doing now. There wasn't a lot of getting involved.
We're trying.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. And I think the difficult part of this is it's the communication. It's getting people to understand. I mean, Darren, when you stood up and said, hey, we're in trouble with, I mean, people need to understand, business people, what's happening to my business if, 30% of the full-time town goes away. I mean, is it gonna have an impact? And if so, do we end up with the downtown that looks like downtown Waterbury?
Oh, we'll have to-
You end up with some boutique shops, but there's nothing.
Bill, we're actually at 38% second home ownership in town.
That high, holy cow.
That's it, that was the number in the affordable housing plan, the data that came from
Wow.
2019.
Well, I think when we moved here
2020.
in 1962, I was in 8th grade, and there were 3 pharmacies. You had 2 food markets.
Yeah.
You had the Anson paint shop. You had electric shop. And you could buy shoes. You could buy clothing. I mean, you literally.
Just in Washington.
Yeah, just in
Then
Washington.
you go to
Yeah.
Preston
And
and do it all over
Preston
again.
had-
Right.
Yeah.
And then the Washington Supply Company had a branch over.
Preston,
And there was Rockwell was there, and Kelly's Market, and
3 barber shops.
Craftsville's could have been the 7-Eleven if they'd had enough wits to
Right.
do it, remember? But
Yeah, I do.
but I mean, so the town has changed. I mean, the original plan of development. I
All
remember-
towns have changed.
came out in 1962, they started the planning commission, 1955, in 1962, they did the first plan. And my mom, who saved everything she ever got, when she died, I'm going through boxes and piles of mail, and I found the original one unopened that was mailed to them from the town. And it had the map, and so they were gonna put a sewage treatment plant way out at the end of the ball field. They're gonna do one below the falls in New Preston. And develop, that whole going up to the lake. But the town was gonna have housing and all sorts of stuff. So one of the other ideas I thought is, the most value, they always talk about, stuff in the center of town, housing, and there's not a lot. It's like, why to have a lumber yard in the center of town? You have a hardware store, you can ship the lumber from it. I mean, this new company, they ship a lot of the lumber, I think, from Thomaston.
They do.
To convert all those old buildings in back there into
lovely.
housing.
Yeah,
You could save some of the old buildings.
What old buildings, where?
at the
The
supply.
supply yard, the
And
lumber
they got
yard.
bought out by, everybody I knew at the supply company is pretty much gone.
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman,
Chapman.
right, in Thomaston. But so there's things like, the town could go and say, and like with the Chappaqua Club. My understanding is that somebody's
Yeah.
bought it and they're in the process of, looking at multifamily
Are they?
Oh, really?
regs. Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
So something's gonna happen, but it's not,
Multifamily?
what's that?
Is it high end?
No.
Or is
No.
it?
I don't know. I'm not sure what, but
It's not
I,
happening. No, it's not high end.
it's not how.
And so a
it's
private
affordable.
party has come in to do this?
But that would be something where the,
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah,
where the town could say. I don't think Chapman owns the real estate. I think the original,
No, the original owner still owned it.
they still own it, yeah. And one of the guys I know, Jim. And Jim's involved with the Sharon Housing Commission. And I had talked up in Hartford at one of the housing conventions, the housing department did. But have a chat with them. What would you
Yeah.
like to sell the property? Chapman, they don't need a lumber yard there. They got, it all up in Thomaston. And I think they ship stuff from Thomaston, my brother said. So, and then the town could go and say, we'll buy the property,
And
and
it's-
then,
Safe from the floodplain, I think, which is one of the few.
Well,
Yeah,
they'll give
yeah.
it to you and take the tax deduction, why not?
yeah. right.
Yeah,
Well, if you're looking back at the supply company, what they did after the flood was, it's all excavated. Well, they took all that to build up the area where Marty's is and my building is, to get it above
oh,
the floodplain. And then
that's that little hill we go.
yeah, but then what happened was FEMA came in the early 80s and decided it should be about 3 feet higher, which then put my building and really pissed me off,
That's
it's like,
annoying, because I can't get the sidewalks to meet ADA code because it slopes too high.
Yeah.
And it's not even out of the floodplain.
yeah,
Great.
enough.
Before, I was just to say, because we lost Ted and I wanted to show him something.
I need
Before
to
we leave
shut
to our
up
people-
here on all
Let's
this.
finish.
No, I think it's
You
been-
here For a couple of these other things.
Well, I'm staying, I'm not,
Good. Don't-
God knows I
go
don't
away.
need food, I could go a couple months without food.
I'm not sure we should tonight go through this. I
No,
think
I
that
think-
we've
I
done
think-
too much on this, you know.
We can talk about the home dedication because it is like.
Yes.
another step
Oh, no,
in
that-
that,
we will do
but
that.
do the other things first.
Okay, we'll remind, about the town meeting, that's Thursday night. And so there's the two things, the town budget, so we get our money, and so that the ordinance is changed so that, if there's a possibility of purchasing land with a building on it, it would be possible to do that.
Right,
There's also that we have to approve the sale of the land and that the money from the sale of the land goes to the Affordable Housing Fund. It's two separate motions. So there's like 4 motions.
Okay.
is the abatement thing on there or not, that one we did with Randy DeBella?
No,
No.
that's not yet. You haven't weighed in on that yet.
But I did, I sent in my changes, which he put in there, didn't he?
Yeah, and I didn't hear from anyone else, but I did, we'll get that.
Oh, yeah, so right, we can do that.
Jim wanted that on a different town. meeting,
Yeah, okay.
So that'll come in later.
Okay, then there's some multifamily housing regulations, the zoning commission is gonna have a hearing on that.
When's the
On the
hearing? on that?
28th.
It's on the agenda, it's May.
28.
Oh, I can't, yeah, I can't see through my eyes here, so, and I'm,
So I think it's important to be there for that.
Yeah.
because, you know, it might not be capital A affordable housing, but it might be small a affordable housing that multifamily housing will allow. Okay, and then the Habitat for Humanity home dedication, that is on June 29th. Do you want to speak to that, Michelle?
Yeah, just real quickly, and if you look at the sign, we've got Habitat, the Housing Trust, and the Housing Commission. Habitat is thrilled to have us come and speak. Blaine from Marty's is gonna do the food. They're going to be Habitat people there, the whole community is invited. It's very exciting. The Business Association is putting together some welcome bags. We're welcoming 2 homeowners, and they're gonna speak about their story. I think one of them is like a local person, I think she said, who grew up here and is now able to move back. So
Yeah,
it's
I know who that is.
opportunity for us to get the word out, to invite the community and to learn about
Is there
housing.
is there a time on that?
Yes, it's at 11 o'clock.
Okay, 11 a.m. Okay.
You know, is
And
that,
get new
that
reading glasses.
gonna be video?
I just see mine says Habitat dedicated.
No, no,
No,
no,
this one right
it was
here.
this
Do you have
one.
one of those?
Oh, geez, I didn't get that.
Is any of that going to be video
Oh, great, thank you, right?
and put on your site? Because,
That is a good
you know,
one.
when I
Good
got
idea.
this afternoon, I looked at the piece about all the towns and all the, and you know, people can't always make these things.
Right,
We could remind them, and you could even have it on the blast, and here's a click to the site and look at
I
it.
think I spoke with Cindy at Habitat about that. I think she maybe said that somebody could, but if not, I will see if we can get that done.
Yeah,
Because,
I
yeah,
think-
it's so great when
maybe
they
somebody
have
from the
those.
school could do it.
Let me ask you sort of a social question. How do these people feel? I mean, do they volunteer for this and then, so everybody comes and celebrates, hey, you can't afford a house in Washington, but you're moving into affordable housing. Don't they,
No,
there's no social kind of feeling?
It's a home for them. You don't understand that. People who don't have homes and have a chance to have their own house.
Okay,
It's emotional. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I've always had a home,
Yeah,
but not everybody has.
Okay.
And, to share that is brilliant and lovely of them. And
so,
we ought to really get it on tape.
good
so
idea.
Charles, we've done, with the commission has hosted 3
Couple of
workshops.
us, yep.
And part of Habitat, you know how you have to put in your sweat equity.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you can do as part of your sweat equity is to come and speak to the home buyer workshops. So some of these young mothers
they
who
have
aren't
been
out there,
So inspiring.
oh, they're
Yeah.
wonderful.
I
And
have to,
really, we
I have to relate my funny experience. The guy that ran the Habitat for Humanity was out of Rock Street. This is like 20-something years ago. And so, I won't mention who the owners were of the house, but so I, you know, joined, you know, because I had carpentry skills. And so I spent a whole day on this house, you know, ripping off all these boards and replacing them. And at about 4 o'clock, the owner drives in his car and takes his golf clubs out of the car. And I'm thinking,
Hey,
you're
wait a
playing
sec,
golf and
I could have been out golfing and he could have been working on his house. That was the last day I worked on his house.
Yeah.
God bless him.
No, but
He was actually a
listening
very
to
nice
these
guy, but-
people that have
Oh,
these
yeah.
homes is very inspiring.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it really
But
means a lot.
it is a great organization. They do good stuff.
Well,
Very
and
good stuff.
they're thrilled to be working with the
Yeah.
town, and they're giving us a platform to speak. So we're
Yeah.
we chose not to participate in the block party because that didn't seem conducive to
Yeah.
this. This is Ted left, but this is his, you know, together we can build it. We're
Bruce,
gonna
you should
have
jump in. Bruce, if you don't know Bruce and I,
Bruce.
yeah, okay.
Some of
We're the
us
same
do,
age, we
right?
went to school together, he went to the gunnery, but
Yep.
we were in 8th grade, played baseball, and, you know, Bruce knows more about this town than I ever will, because he grew up.
and
here.
about housing,
Just a
Grace
kid.
Kent.
Yeah,
Right, I
They
know.
have great housing.
So here, this is the mock up, you know, we did a brochure for the trust.
That was pretty good, Michelle.
Pretty good, actually.
Michelle.
Yeah, this is, and so, you know, and I'll
Was
have
it,
some
was
more.
that the intern that worked on this or no, or?
Yep, and then
Yeah.
I updated it
Yeah,
and
great.
I did a small print run.
Yeah.
For the last event we did last year. So look it over. I can make a couple more edits before I print it for June 29th. But we'll have information.
Yeah.
I'll have copies of the housing plan. So the community can come and learn about what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
great.
we'll be able to talk about the new property.
Well, and we
You know,
talked,
you
Judy,
could
about
Where is
getting
it?
something for a table would have both. Yeah.
She's
Yeah, and then we'll pay,
Have you ordered that?
What?
like a table
the table
cloth
thing?
thing or something, because we'll pay money, you know. And
This
yeah,
is
That's what it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
look
that's
Mock-up,
great,
I haven't
yeah.
sent it in
Oh,
yet. I wanted
yeah.
to bring, but
And
it's the commission and the trust working together.
Yeah.
Together.
And I'd love, you know, actually, I'd hope maybe some more people from the trust, so maybe I should have shut up. But, you know, is to discuss how the two of us can work, you know, organizations can work together. I mean, maybe we come to another meeting that,
Yeah,
you know,
always.
doesn't have all
And
the other
also-
stuff.
As a new member, of trust and knowing people on that, I'm wondering, what, you know, we really need a list of what we do so people can see what the differences is and the commonality.
I did a little bit in that.
Yeah, which they
I
don't
mean,
know that
I
you
don't
did that yet.
know. I really need to know that.
Judy wrote a fabulous
sure she
article
did.
for the newsletter. It'll come out June
Oh, good.
1st.
That's great.
So make sure
That's
you
great.
see that.
Right,
Yeah. Could we have this, meeting? We couldn't get this into Judy Black Park at 11 o'clock.
Because we're hosting it, I have the insurance, we're using the building for free. It just
Right.
seemed.
Okay. Could we have it outside of town? Getting people into that building on a Saturday,
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard. Can you have it under a tent outside on the front lawn if it's, you know,
We have to
even,
rent a tent.
oh, I mean, a stinky tent, you know, the 10 by 10 tent, just something that says something's going on here. I think getting people into town hall
We'll
is
fix
hard.
It is. I mean, we're gonna put the invitation flyers out, get
Yeah.
the selectmen's
We're
email,
gonna have to
everything,
hustle
but.
people to go over.
But, you know, if we open the doors, maybe we can have something outside. Maybe I have a banner made as well as the tablecloth.
Yeah.
And we,
I
you
think
know,
we need to go pick up people at town, at the farmer's market
farmer's
and drag them over, seriously. Because it's gonna be very important that they understand this.
yeah, trying to figure out how to get them
Does your
inside.
intern do videos?
I don't have the intern anymore,
Which is-
sorry. He's interning with, he's graduating now from Quinnipiac and interning with Chris Murphy this summer, so that's exciting.
Oh, he owes us a little time, doesn't he?
It was free labor.
well,
did you say you were getting another one or not? Did that
She
not
hasn't
happen?
come back. She did a little bit of work for me, which was
Joe
great. but-
Mustich, does Joe do stuff like that anymore? I
I don't know. What do you want? What do you want done?
Well, someone could take their iPad and plug it, you know, and
Oh,
shoot
video.
the video.
Oh.
I want that on video and
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
website.
yeah.
Someone who knows about this.
I know,
I don't.
is school out?
It is.
Yeah, the school's out, it's June 29th, because there's a video production crew up at the school. You know, depending on,
Yeah, they're gonna be sitting around.
Do you want a video of the event?
Yeah, don't you think?
but I feel
It's
like
powerful.
Cindy and I spoke about this, Habitat
They
might
did,
have.
I think Habitat, I think we were planning on, because we had a drone fly over the site last week to
Okay,
represent that. So I think they plan on having somebody do a
Okay.
recording at the event as well.
okay.
That'd be good.
That would just tell them how important we think it is to put on our.
I highlighted it and I put an
Yeah.
exclamation
I
point.
know.
Right here. It'll be the first thing I talk about. It'll be the first thing I talk about
Sorry.
tomorrow.
Yeah, because I think that if we can get it on our town website and under the house, I mean, to make it accessible to people who aren't there.
Well, honestly, maybe I'll see if I can get the drone footage to you earlier,
Cool.
and then maybe you can get that on the town website before the event.
Yep,
Maybe that's
or a
something-
link to it in the select.
maybe a link in
email.
the-
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah,
to-
a link in the select.
So this is coming up next week.
Because I think people read that and you gotta sort of get them there and then, move on.
Well, I hope, Judy and everybody, that we can, combine our forces here. Have more discussion in terms of how do we raise the consciousness of folks here in town. In terms of, where the town's headed in terms of its population, the impact that's gonna have on the town institutions. And then, again, how much more deeply does the town get involved in terms of, financing some of this? Because one of the problems we're gonna run into with this Wickham thing with the Department of Housing is gonna be, they look to see what the mill rate is in the town. And if you've got a real low mill rate, you're not getting as many points as, the.
And we're the lowest?
Well, it's good.
We're
About to be,
I mean,
I think that
The
was.
word I heard was that they're looking at something like 10, mill rate of
10.5.
10 or something. And,
10.5.
right now, at 14.25, it was, I think, tied for third with Warren. But now I think it's gonna be, probably Greenwich will always be the lowest, but, at some point, it's sort of like. Anybody here that complains about their taxes, well, the only place you can move to is Greenwich. But I mean, try and find an affordable home in Greenwich. But, is for the town to appropriate, come up with a plan, to say like, what, if the town center is where we want to have this affordable housing or this something, then what are the, how about the supply company? I don't know, what would they want for it? I mean, but to take an active role in, because, it's great to put together plans, but, when they sit on a shelf gathering dust.
You need the land.
Well,
Bill,
I
we
kept
have
saying
it
all
better.
along, you've gotta get a conveyance fee.
Yeah.
Well, we asked, we
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
Tried that.
conveyance fee.
tried that, we brought that to the selectmen.
That's the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to do it.
Well, that money, the conveyance tax fees, I mean, that should be allocated for housing.
Well, we
That's what I
requested that
mean.
a couple of
And
months
it
ago.
used to, and it's even now, it's still, I mean, with these multi-million-dollar homes at sale, it's a lot of money.
Yep.
Although there haven't been a lot of sales in the last couple of years, but still,
Yeah.
But it
still a
doesn't
lot
have
of
to
money.
be a huge conveyance fee, but still.
It's gotta be at least a couple $100,000 or more.
Oh,
How do
it's
you-
usually about 250,000.
How do you get a conveyance fee passed? Is it an ordinance or is
It's
it?
a town, it's a state, there's a state conveyance tax
Yeah.
that you get a portion of, I think.
There's a local portion of it. I had somewhere here.
But
the
it's
whole-
not an
there's, like,
ordinance.
The whole
the
write-up,
town
because
can
we did the
pass an
whole, we did
ordinance
the
to have
math
a
on it.
conveyance fee.
We
Yeah.
tried, we
Well, they
really
can make a
tried.
decision.
Well, I saw that
They
they
make
didn't,
conveyance.
the Board of
And they
Selectmen
get
didn't go
certain
along
amount of
with it.
money
Yeah.
every year,
Yeah,
the town,
yeah.
and we
What?
requested that they give that conveyance fee
The whole
to the
thing.
housing commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
they
made sense,
they
but
wanted to come out of the general fund, was
So,
it?
No, this was before
Oh,
we even,
before.
this was,
We got the board of selectmen mostly on board, and then it fell apart at the Board of Finance.
But
because
Well,
they
yeah.
felt,
Well, the
You
Board
gotta
of
look
Finance is
at-
all, they're elected, and I think,
Yeah, that's the problem.
one of the things is, that I think, don't they still split it between the Republicans and the Democrats? equal?
Well,
there's only one that's on the, that's only.
But I
one.
mean, but again, it's raising they're, it's sort of like, part of their job in terms of coming up with budgets is, what does the town do? And it's not just a matter of how do you run the town today, but, where are you gonna be?
What
10
we
years
need
down
are
the road?
firemen.
Oh, I have
we
that.
Need, we need a lot of people. And, unless we have.
Take care of
houses.
us.
Do firemen and, ambulance people, do they get a tax?
I think they,
benefit?
yeah, I think that.
$1,000 off their,
You have to keep your percentage up, but yes.
but
But
do we rate, do they
I
raise the
think they raised
percentage?
it. I think
they
raised it.
might have raised it, but it's still, the way it shows up, it still shows up as income. So you have to,
Is the charges?
Yeah. so it shows up to you as income.
It should
So
be,
you
like-
end up paying tax on it, so.
well, they should
depending on
they
where you
should
are.
net it out, like.
They should,
It's 1,000 plus whatever the
They
taxes
should.
are on it. Yeah,
Well, how do you get that done? I mean, that,
gotta go to a town meeting,
yeah,
right? Get 25 people to show up.
yeah,
Yes.
make the
They-
proposal and they
The
come.
Board of
Well,
Finance
I think
apparently.
the only way that it's gonna happen in this town is if the town is under the impression that if the town doesn't do it, somebody else will.
Well,
the state, in other words. And until that happens, I just don't see this town actually committing in a serious way to make this happen.
well, there's, what the legislature's done, because people think, well, the town has power. The town has no powers. It's a subdivision of the state. The only sovereign state is the state of Connecticut. They're responsible for educating the children, but they delegate it to the towns and regional school districts. But the reality of it is that, they put in 830G because all these people are mad in the urban areas where, they're stuck with all the kids that have problems and this and that. And so to override local zoning regulations. And we did that with the Vincent Farm. That was one lot. That's only have one house on it under the current zoning regulations. And we were able, with the feasibility study to say, we could actually done more than 2 lots. But, I tried to keep it at 1 acre, which was the old zoning. But, a developer could come in here like they're doing down in Fairfield County. And, if 30% of the units are affordable, the Wickham Rise thing, somebody could come in there and say, I'm going to do 30 condominiums and 9 of them have to be affordable. Well, the money he's going to make off the other are going to, and you're not selling them for nothing. You're still getting money for them. And at some point that, people think, well, our zoning regulations are sacrosanct. You don't have any. If someone comes in with the 30%,
Exactly.
you have no, in other words, you could have next door, anybody next door could have an apartment.
I don't think that threat is palpable enough.
Yeah, they don't understand.
They don't understand it. And maybe it'll never happen, but a smart developer with that piece of property,
Well, one of my old
community.
when this multifamily thing came up, a couple of my old clients, emailed me and said, Bill, what's going on? I don't know about multifamily next to my house. And I wrote back and I said, guess what? You already have multifamily. If it's 30% of it are affordable, you don't have any zoning. Well, the zoning regulations, they don't cover that. And people don't, like you said, Charles, they don't get that you really have no zoning regulations at all. If someone is willing to make 30% of it affordable.
Well, then all of the zoning, the affordable zoning that was approved, has it been approved? Yes, but that's been proposed.
The
multifamily?
That's meaningless.
No.
It's
No,
meaningless.
it's not meaningless. That's gonna be really helpful for developers who are building multifamily that's not necessarily.
Not just developers, but anybody who's got an apartment wants to put a garage above, or apartment
Yeah.
above a garage.
Or you
Right.
I
wanna,
mean, or find a building here in town, and put a second
You're right.
story on it.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
apartments is where this town needs to go.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, because even if you guys build a whole bunch of affordable,
No.
$250,000, that's
You
not
won't get
affordable.
No.
I mean, looking at the people that want to rent from me on a monthly basis. The single mom that lives with the church right across the bridge, the single woman who lives there that works at GW. She can't afford, she doesn't want to live with her mom. She wants to live in a
Right.
$1,400 a month apartment. She doesn't want a lawn to mow, she wants an apartment.
What's it going, like 1,400, 1,600, something like that?
1 bedroom, 14, 15, 16,
Right.
17,
Yeah, right in
1,800
that
for a
range,
2-bedroom.
yeah.
So I mean, what you need is to think about facilities here in town that you could put a second story on. To put 1 or 2 apartments in, to build a community center over at the Riverwalk, or not at the Riverwalk, right over at the Sculpture Park. And put 10 apartment buildings above it, 2-bedroom apartments, and have the whole first floor be a community center.
That's it.
I mean, that's it, because that's where you're gonna get your volunteer firemen, that's where you're gonna get, because again, a young family
Especially
moves
if you
into
keep-
town.
if you keep
You gotta
in
keep
town.
it within the town
Right.
center, get rid of the primary school and develop the whole thing down
Well,
there.
that's,
And put them all
now
up in
you
the high
get me
school.
on the other one. You and I voted to build, we voted back in the, Judy and I back
well, I did it in
83,
2000s.
84, something like that. It was gonna save over $1 million a year, and at that point, the state was reimbursing us
Oh, yeah.
80% or something for building a new school. Now, I don't know what it's down to, probably 20.
Way down in like 24.
But, we're, the town, I mean, people, this is another thing that taxpayers and Washington don't realize. What's our part of the budget, 46%, something like that, based on the October 1st?
Yeah, we're like at
So
48. yeah.
you have Roxbury, the Booth Free School is over 100-something years old, most of it, good parts of it. Bridgewater, they're junky buildings. The Washington was a high school. I went to high school there. It wasn't an elementary school. It's a piece of crap. It's 80-something years old.
So,
And so we're paying 46% of fixing up those buildings in Bridgewater and Roxbury,
Right.
which are in, I'm gonna say they're worse
Worse.
shape than ours, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you should build if we had done that, they would have saved by now, 40 years, they would have saved probably $100 million.
Yeah.
Think about what you could have done with $100 million.
I know.
And you wouldn't be paying $35,000 per pupil. You'd be paying, you know, there's 8 kids in my grandson's
Yeah.
class. The teacher's getting, I don't, what do they get now, 80,000 or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, not to,
Well, not
they
McGinnis.
they started,
but the
Yeah.
building system, I mean, when I was in high school there, you were in 8th grade, that building was a hunk of junk.
Even then,
The heat didn't, I mean, that was 1962.
well, they've done the best they can with what they have, but we know, we're all talking to the choir.
And then
so- If does anybody have anything else to talk
No.
about?
But what
Okay.
are the-
So maybe at some point invite back to discuss how we can jointly do the
We'll
communications.
do it next
Yeah,
week.
Yeah,
I mean, next month.
yeah, that'd be
Next
good.
week.
Now, Bruce, I know
Definitely
that's
not
a great
next
idea.
are we adjourned?
We,
I make
yeah,
the motion, we adjourn.
second,
Second.
all in favor of adjourned?